Okay, as always, let me know if any of you guys want to come on the panel. This evening, we have three good topics tonight. And I should say, well, two good topics, three articles tonight. So should be good, should be a lot of fun. Actually been looking forward to this conversation. So we're going to give people another minute to get in here, and then we're going to get started.
Hey, Sheree.
Eric, we can't see you or hear you.
Okay, hold on.
Trying to talk. Let's see. Say something now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
I still can't see you, but I can hear you.
All right, I hit stop video.
Try
hit
it again.
Yeah, I hit start video.
Okay, we're not seeing you. Guys in the chat, let me know if you can see Eric. I cannot see him.
And I can't see myself, so.
Oh, okay, so yeah.
It's weird.
You may have to come back in then.
Okay, let me do that.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna log out, then come back in.
Okay, perfect. All right, while Eric is coming back in, first of all, welcome to Blockchain Chat. You know, if it's Wednesday and you're hanging out with me, it's all blockchain day. So this is our weekly discussion where we discuss the latest blockchain news from a Black blockchain consultant's point of view. I'm Cherie, I'm the founder of Black Blockchain Consultants. Want to welcome all the new people here tonight. Do want to tell you that if you would like to, this is laid back atmosphere, so you can feel free to get your beverage of choice. You can feel free to be on the panel as well. We love having panelists join us. So our discussions tonight, we have two different topics for this evening, and I'm looking forward to talking about it. The first topic is something that the Army has requested with regards to Bitcoin. You all see that article. And then the second is there was a group of a council, advisory council for blockchain in Colorado that suggested some legislation for the state of Colorado. And even if you don't live in Colorado, a lot of this legislation I'm seeing proposed is being proposed throughout many states. So our whole discussion is how can we take advantage of this as Black blockchain consultants. So Eric, we still can't see you, so I'm not quite sure, but we may just have to hear your voice tonight.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, I just want to tell you, what is Black Blockchain Consultants? We are a group of people. We are international. And we discuss 4 different things as it regards to blockchain. So we discuss blockchain jobs and the types of careers that are out there, blockchain-based businesses that you can start and how you can be successful with them, investing in the blockchain, whether you're investing time or money into projects, and ultimately building generational wealth. Blockchain is going to be a $3.1 trillion industry. We want to be owners in the industry, and we want our voices heard with regards to what's happening in the industry. So a couple of additional announcements. We've been talking about the virtual conference that is coming up. It is going to be around 21st century fundraising techniques. Anybody who owns a business can participate in this throughout the country. We're going to talk about crowdfunding, um, opportunity zones, as well as how blockchain is going to be crucial and vital over the next 5 to 10 years in crowdfunding for our businesses. And it's really going to level the playing field. Also, Atlanta 2020 is going to be happening February 16th and 17th, 2020. So please ask your bosses for the time off now. It's going to be a great, great time. We are going to be tokenizing a piece of Black art. And we are also going to have Chris McFarlane, who is the CEO of Patientory, as our keynote speaker. She raised $20 million. She's very influential in blockchain for healthcare, and she's very passionate about us as Black people participating in the industry. So you won't want to miss that. Eric, any other announcements before we get started?
No, and I wish everyone could see me, but no, that was it. We are moving forward. We're in a great place with the virtual conference. Really looking forward to it. I think it's just going to be an excellent time, especially in a key time too. Things are starting to, I mean, I wouldn't say starting to, things have always been moving in the blockchain cryptocurrency space, but I just have a feeling that this fall, we're going to see something explosive happen, and it's going to be great for us to be right here on time having this kind of discussion. So I want, yeah, we're going to deliver some great insight, great content that I believe is going to just deliver a lot of value for everyone. They'll be able to take and to really apply into their lives to benefit them. So.
Right. So just so everybody remembers the conversation we had last week, it was about interoperability within blockchain and standardization of these blockchain platforms. And they're estimating that the majority of the blockchain platforms should be interoperable and standardized by 2021. So we are in the fourth quarter of 2019. That basically means we have about 12 to 18 months to really position ourselves as thought leaders, individually as well as collectively. Because when this thing takes off, what's going to happen at that point is mass adoption. And I want everybody that is here today to be able to participate in the uptick, because there's going to be a lot happening. I want you to pick a niche, and I want you to basically solidify yourself as the guru, the person people are calling with regards to your area of blockchain. So I really want to encourage you with that. So Eric, if you don't mind, we're just going to get started with the topics of the night. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Eric? Okay, perfect. I'm glad you're able to see my screen. Okay, so a friend of mine sent this to me yesterday, and I had an immediate feeling about it. So I said, well, this is going to be great for us to talk about with regards to blockchain chat. So it's saying here, U.S. Army seeks blockchain experts who can trace Bitcoin in real time. And just from this title of the article, I thought, uh-oh. and Eric, you can let me know if you're thinking the same thing. So it's saying here, the U.S. Army Contracting Command of New Jersey has issued a pre-solicitation notice for crypto investigation service providers. And it's saying here, according to the ACC, the cryptocurrency analytics solution is being sought for use by the U.S. Army Criminal Investigation Command for use in criminal investigations and other missions. The notice outlines that the contractor must provide a cloud-based online service not relying on hardware or software that can assist law enforcement in identifying and pursuing actors using cryptocurrencies for illicit purposes such as fraud, extortion, and money laundering. Contractors should provide the source of the cryptocurrency transactions with the capacity to offer multi-cryptocurrency analysis from Bitcoin to other major cryptocurrencies. Other requirements include providing real-time Bitcoin and other crypto transaction tracing including service attribution and identification, as well as being able to identify transaction patterns and interactions with other entities. So basically what they're saying here is they want to know everything about everything. In the fall of 2018, a Dyer report had revealed that US government agencies had tripled their investment in blockchain intelligence firms that year. The vast majority of 2018 blockchain intelligence government deals were reportedly contracted to New York-based blockchain analytics firm Chain Analysis, which had, as of the date, signed deals with government agencies totaling $5.3 million. This August, Cointelegraph reported that the US Air Force had secured new contracts with smart contract startup Simba Chain and blockchain data management firm Constellation, with the focus on using technology for supply chain and data management. With this paragraph right here, if you're looking for a blockchain job, these three companies are getting blockchain government contracts. So, you know, sometimes you got to read between the lines here. Meanwhile, in an interview earlier this month, Grammy Award-winning musician Akon quipped that the value of fiat currency such as the US dollar is ultimately only sustained by military might. So there are a few things happening within this article. I was triggered, probably not for not for the right reasons. But Eric, tell me what you were thinking.
I mean, it's it. Let's just be honest. I think the first thing that we all is kind of, okay, here we go again. Mm-hmm. And it's this whole issue again of surveillance of, you know, surveillance of the citizenry. I mean, you know, of us. And, you know, the article says that they're only looking for, you know, basically illicit activity. Mm-hmm. But who really believes that it's going to stay, that they're only going to stay in, you know, localize into that sphere, that this won't completely move over to all transactions from all citizens, whether it's illicit or not. And that's where this will eventually mushroom into. I think that is one of the chief concerns. You're going, okay, well, yeah, here we go again. You know, here is, and you know, and it's funny because they mentioned the U.S. Army. Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you think the NSA is going to be looking at this? Like, I mean,
of course they are. Of course they are. Not only every 3-4 letter agency that's out there, and also the United States shares intelligence with European nations, Israel, Saudi Arabia, China. You know, right. They want to pretend like they're not in bed with these other countries, but they absolutely are. So, you know, it takes away from the spirit of what Bitcoin was supposed to be and what it was supposed to do. They're also recognizing that Coinbase is not the only game in town. And now people are building super highways into cryptocurrency. So it's not like, so I thought, you know, about the Silk Road, right? That a few years ago, a lot of illicit activity, they were able to figure out what was happening because of certain chat rooms, and there were only a few ways you could really get and transfer this cryptocurrency. Right. Well, now you're going to have a lot of different platforms, a lot of different types of crypto. So when they mentioned that they wanted to see multi-currency, you know, transactions and things like that, it is going to be used for all sorts of purposes, including big data. So there are going to be companies like, was it Cambridge Analytics, I think it was, that did the whole thing with Facebook, that are going to be making billions of dollars a year from what? From our data, with Bitcoin and Ethereum and any other cryptocurrencies that we decide to trade. You know, go ahead.
Shirley, can I add something too? Of
Sure.
course, they put in Bitcoin, which, it's always, it's the most recognizable name in cryptocurrency. So obviously, but, they also mentioned their other cryptocurrencies. So for me, immediately when I'm reading this, I'm thinking about the privacy coins, Monero, Dash, Pivx, Horizon, all of those that, are for the most part very difficult to track and to trace. So obviously they do have their sights set on this. They're aware of this, and it's going to be interesting to see where this takes us. Because this is definitely, this is pretty, this article is telling us the door is open, we're moving in. We're moving in now, but it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. And I've heard people mention, that, with some of the privacy coins that they may get to the point of just saying, okay, we're just going to try as best as possible to shut down or outlaw any exchanges that are offering any sort of privacy coins, which is interesting too, because when that happens, we know how things happen, that things go underground, and how it goes from there, I don't know. But yeah, that was another thought of mine, that obviously it's not about Bitcoin, because listen, everyone knows Bitcoin can be traced,
Yeah,
so yeah, exactly. It can be traced. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the FBI, they love it when criminals use Bitcoin, because and which is even kind of it's kind of comical, because you remember you mentioned Silk Road, and you remember the thing. What happened was there was an FBI agent who was there, handling the case. Yeah, he ended up stealing some of the Bitcoin himself, and then thinking he's anonymous, he ends up getting caught red-handed. So that was my thought, Sue. That this is their sites are really on privacy coins. To me, that's just me.
Right. Right. And Tangi mentions the same thing. She said we need decentralized exchanges. Privacy coins are being removed from exchanges slowly but surely. However, I think they're going to head underground. It's very possible. Perez is saying they're putting eyes on the crypto blockchain space community. They already have eyes on it. They've been watching it for a while. I think now, again, more than ever, we're getting more and more confirmations that cryptocurrency is not going anywhere and that blockchain is not going anywhere. They're putting money into blockchain services. They're putting money into these things. And it's very interesting that we have this article, and then we're going to be talking about Colorado, because this is happening at the national level in this country, as well as other countries globally, whether it's Africa or Europe or the Caribbean, and it's happening on the state level. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's happening on the city level. I've seen a couple of cities, but I've seen it on a county level when it comes to marriage certificates and things like that. So, again, we really want to look at the privacy piece of it, but also the economics of it. And just one more thing with regards to this, I wanted to make sure we noted. I had a thought. I think that was it. I think it was really just the two sides of this, the side of the privacy, and then also the side of opportunity for us. Oh, yes. This is what I wanted to say. There were some people that got in a room together somewhere and decided to put this RFQ out. It's also important for us to be in those rooms. Those rooms are where opportunity happens. And when we go through the Colorado thing, I'm going to mention it again. It's important for us to be in those rooms and for people to know who we are. So I can't express how important it is for us to pick a niche and start going to the industry conferences, participating in the working groups. I even need to be better at that, like picking a working group within GBA, for example, and going there and really participating, because that is where the money is made. If you're serious about this industry, it's about being in the room and people knowing who you are, so that when the contracts come and the opportunities come, you get a phone call or an email.
I agree.
So, yeah.
And Shri, can I just, one thing I just do want to add, just about this, with the privacy aspect, I think that, many people can maybe get the wrong impression that it's about, oh, well, yeah, no, then if someone's using a privacy coin or whatever the case is, oh, you're trying to, do something illicit or avoid, whatever, any sort of, that you're trying to do something illegal, when that's not the case at all. When we look at a lot of the big data breaches that have happened, those are privacy issues. And a lot of the privacy coins, I know like Verizon, that's a big thing of theirs, was that your data is supposed to be your data. So you're supposed to have control of it. It's supposed to be protected by you. And obviously a lot of the companies fail in that regard, no matter how much they say that they're trying, that they have their security walls up. So they believe that they're offering a service to ensure security when it comes down to privacy. It's one thing, me knowing your name. It's another thing, me knowing your social security number.
Yeah.
I just wanted to just add that in, that not everyone is, that's not the focus of a lot of the privacy, a lot of the privacy coins. It's, but.
Yeah. And I got a phone call from somebody last year who she was helping her family member hide money because he was about to go through a divorce. So, illicit activities could include husband trying to hide money from wife and vice versa, or, parents trying to hide money from kids and all of this. So there's a lot of different reasons that people use privacy coins. So I'm just stating that that we want to think about that. All right, so let me share then the next article with you, which is in regards to Colorado. So they had a blockchain report identifying barriers and opportunities. This is what I was saying here. A governor-appointed council, again, governor-appointed council. He just plucked some people. This is what happened. This is how power gets more power too. And we're in a political year, so I'm not telling you be Democrat or Republican. Trust me, I'm just saying know how these things work, and we need to position ourselves. So a governor-appointed council reviewed opportunities for and obstacles to blockchain technology in Colorado for 1 year before releasing its findings, outlining statutes, laws, and regulations in need of modernization. When you want to talk about power within an industry, you are talking about the people that sat there and outlined statutes, laws, and regulations that need to be changed. How many of us were in this room? And there are Black people in Colorado, so.
True.
The Colorado Council for the Advancement of Blockchain Tech Use gave lawmakers and the governor's office a potential path to blockchain implementation to consider with the release of its final report last week. And we're going to actually show that report as well. The council was created by former Governor John Hickenlooper in June 2018, continued after Governor Jared Polis took office in January, with the goal of identifying barriers and opportunities for the emerging technology. Within the 30-page document are detailed explanations about antiquated statutes, laws, and regulations believed to stand in the way of blockchain development in certain sectors. The council outlined potential legislative actions and other solutions that could allow the technology to flourish if enacted. Yet, despite the complexity, blockchain tech and innovation has continued to grow in Colorado. Over the past 3 years, blockchain companies affiliated with Colorado have raised over $50 million in venture capital funding. So again, blockchain jobs are getting created, blockchain opportunities here. So then let's go to the 30-page document here. And they say 30 pages, but really everything is like in big letters. So it's not that much here. But this is their Blockchain Council report to the community, done in July 2019. Okay, so they talk about it here being created by Governor Hickenlooper. I don't think there was anything much on this page. They talked about what is blockchain, what is crypto. They talked about what the Blockchain Council is, 16 members, which operates out of Colorado's Office of Economic Development and Trade. These appointees include industry representatives, attorneys, leaders of government agencies, and elected officials. Then they have the council adopted several guiding principles: do no harm, provide clarity wherever possible, and position Colorado as a leader. And again, it doesn't matter that we don't live in Colorado. Every state is going to have a lot of the same stuff in it. So you just change out Colorado for your state.
Yeah.
So the council organization began identifying problems facing the blockchain industry. It created a broad list of issues and then organized participants into working groups to first clearly identify the problem, then propose possible solutions. And who's going to get all the contracts from these proposed solutions? Hello. Okay. Yes, I live in the DC area, so. Each working group was led by a council member, but actively solicited participation from the broader community through Slack channel discussions, cooperative Google Docs, and working group meetings. Ultimately, close to 100 volunteers participated across the different working groups. Once the problems were clearly identified, the groups began working on solutions. In some cases, the issues identified turned out to be less substantive than first expected. For example, many of the questions community members had about the taxation of the cryptocurrency in Colorado had established answers that just needs to be more widely publicized. In other cases, there were some issues that would be difficult or impossible to address at the state level. Exchanges are not regulated by the state of Colorado. So there's little that Colorado could do for that. Okay, so let's see what some of these solutions were. So these are the issues identified by the council. Definition of tokens. So definitions around the various types of tokens and digital assets are unclear and vague. So they're saying this drastically reduces the company's, by defining and classifying types of tokens, companies can create token offerings that fit within a clear legal framework. So they're talking about fundraising here. This drastically reduces the company's costs, protects consumers, and gives more visibility to the offering. Additionally, regulators and policymakers would be able to create a cohesive regulatory framework that guides companies and protects consumers. So this is the type of thing that Eric would be on because of tokenization. So they're talking here about securities as an issue. The lack of regulatory clarity around token sales leads to uncertainty and potential criminal and civil liability for companies and individuals who want to sell or purchase digital tokens. So there's a need for framework to determine which blockchain-based assets are securities and which are not. So they're starting to build rules and regulations around this. Taxation is another issue. They're talking about this with regards to federal and state taxes, I'm sure.
Mhm.
There are questions about how payments to employees in crypto will be tracked, going back to the Army thing we just talked about,
Uh-huh.
and recorded, giving potential price volatility and how tax filing and withholding would be implemented. This uncertainty makes it difficult for employees or employers who may want to pay a salary and wages to do so and ensure they are in compliance. Banking regulation, blockchain businesses conducting value exchanging transactions on behalf of clients may be deemed money transfer agents, and enforcement actions in this regard have already occurred. Blockchain companies therefore operate in a gray legal area, unsure which, if any, financial regulations are applicable to them. I'm going to, I think, take this last one, which is banking, and then come back to you, Eric. So banking, blockchain businesses, particularly those with a crypto focus, have historically found it difficult to obtain traditional banking services using simple bank accounts. That's true, because when I tried to do something with Navy Federal, they didn't, just because of our name, they said no.
Really?
Yes. Due to regulatory and product uncertainty, banks sometimes consider these businesses too risky to accept as customers, making it difficult for crypto companies to access and store capital. This is true. Or just saying, you know, when we said we're Blockchain Consortium International, we were rejected as a business to have an account at Navy Federal. So because of our name and because we were in blockchain. So this, you know, reminds me of marijuana, because I don't know if they've changed, if they've relaxed some of their banking regulations, but I know about a year ago, people were still unable to open up bank accounts if they had cannabis businesses. So yeah, so any one of these strikes you, Eric, in terms of what they've identified?
Well, I will say the regulation issue. Sure, do you mind like scrolling back up to that?
Sure.
Especially the one with the SEC.
This one here?
No, it was up a little bit further.
The securities?
Yep, right here.
Okay.
This is one that everyone does have their eyes on.
Mhm.
It's really untangling that. See, it's my belief that we are going, because of the way, it's my belief that digital assets are going to carve out a completely new niche that wasn't ever seen before. And they will have their own category. And because, you know, most of the time, you know, everyone is trying to fit a round peg into a round hole, round peg into a square hole, I guess, or other way around. But you know, we have progressed to a point. I mean, and I say that where you know, you look at companies like Facebook and Apple, and you look at what these companies do and how they make money and how they make revenue. That's like completely unheard of. What you had previously in the 1930s, which is what a lot of these companies are judged by. And you know, I remember hearing Tim Cook saying, "There's no way." He said he was saying, if you want, you know, because Apple right now is a big deal. They're offshore. They're in, I believe it's in Ireland. Is it? I think it is. And they were like, "No, they should be here. They should be paying taxes here." But he was like, "If you're going to make us go by a tax code for what we do now that was written in the 1930s, it doesn't apply to us. Like, there's no way we're just going to get slammed."
Right. But
You know,
yeah,
like,
they wouldn't have the cash anymore.
right. So he was like, rework it to the type of business that Apple is, you know, the type of business that what Apple does. So I believe that this is where we're going to be with digital assets. And I believe this is where we're going to be too, eventually, with digital securities, that they are going to, there are going to be like many amendments, and we're going to mold things to the way that it's working now. Like we're not there yet, but that's something that even us, being part of the CFPA, that is part of our ongoing active advocacy.
Right.
Is to do that. So, and I'm just saying this, that obviously, Colorado, they're leading the way too. Like they see this. Wyoming is one of those states, it's funny because I guess it would be, kind of adjacent to Colorado, but they're incredibly blockchain friendly.
Mm-hmm.
I think Cardano has placed their headquarters in Wyoming. There's a lot of other companies that are, decided to move out to Wyoming because of it being, Kanye is one of them. But
I don't think Kanye moved out there for blockchain now.
Yeah, but other companies have decided to move out there because they are much more friendly. And so it's kind of funny. You see this thing right here in this Rocky Mountain area, where you do see them looking to get a good grasp of it. It's going to be interesting to see how it develops in, especially states like this that are leading the way. It's funny because, New York, which is pretty much, as far as I'm concerned, that's the headquarters of world finance. It's a very difficult blockchain crypto environment.
Mm-hmm.
You would think it would be the opposite, but it's really tough with the regulation there in New York for someone to open up a blockchain company or for someone to start a blockchain company there.
Yeah.
But,
Well, there were three things that you said that I want to follow up on. The first is in regards to Tim Cook and, the fact that they are doing business now in a different way than how the tax code was originally written. Remember about 5 years ago, there was a lot of hoopla about these internet companies a la Amazon making hundreds of billions of dollars and not getting sales tax. Does anybody remember that? And how the law had to change in order to handle that, because so much business moved online. So you've got that happening now with, like, every time there's a change in technology, there are laws that are going to be changed that correspond to that. And there are people that are going to get rich because when the internet companies finally had to be taxed, what did everybody do? They ran to their accountants.
They sure did.
They ran to their tech people and said, I need you to put a plug in for me to figure out taxes based on where people live. I live in, New York, and the person I am sending the package to lives in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
What do I do?
Right.
So this is again where opportunity comes, and I'm just trying to open people's eyes to all the opportunities that are available when we say this is a $3.1 trillion industry. And why I say the 3.1 trillion is really low, because there are going to be all of these services that people are going to need.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. Yes, that is right.
So then the second thing you were hitting on something, and I wrote down, the fight between tax and capitalism. And this goes again back to Tim Cook and to the cryptocurrency, US Army thing that we're talking about. There is this continuous fight. So Apple has a lot of money outside of the United States that it refuses to bring in, because once they repatriate that money, then they are going to be taxed out the wazoo for it, right? And I'm not Republican or Democrat, but the Republicans have been floating around this idea of a tax holiday, because you've got these large multinational companies that are out there that have all this money outside the United States, that if they could bring this money back into the United States, and they would, the theory is, invest in new jobs, and invest in capital equipment and things like that. My point is, even with this Colorado report, there's always this balance in this fight between taxation and capitalization,
Mm-hmm.
or capitalism, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
taxation and capitalism. And if you tax companies so much, if you're spying on them so much and you tax them so much that they can't create jobs, then you as a politician lose your job, you lose your position, you know. But if you don't tax them at all, then people are mad that these big companies are not being taxed, or the state and the counties don't have enough money to function appropriately. So, you know, I'm not saying anything's right or wrong. I'm just kind of mentioning that because you had alluded to some of that with Tim Cook. And the final thing I'll say is everything we've seen thus far has this balance between federal and state. And I believe that these states are going to start, if they haven't already, they probably have. They're going to start huddling with the federal government, and the federal government is going to start huddling with the states.
I agree with you.
Yes. And it won't just be the federal government and the state administrators. They're probably going to start calling these working groups
Mm-hmm.
from these states and industry experts. And then is again us being in the room.
Mm-hmm.
To number one, hear what's happening, because you'll be able to say, "Ooh, that's a good opportunity. Let me get into that really quickly." And then number two, to shape what's happening as well.
Correct.
As somebody who cares about the industry. So anything else, Eric, before I go back to the article? I'm sorry, to the report.
Well, I do want to add one thing too that you mentioned, just about the taxation and about companies. And yes, this is being pretty much, politically agnostic. But, you know, this blockchain sector is set up to be one of the most transformative, explosive sectors that we've seen possibly in our lifetime. The worst thing, and I'm sure, but this is one thing that we do get in and we do say, that, you know, when we have our voices heard along with everyone else, because we do have a lot of people that are saying the same thing, the worst thing you could do will be to run that off of our shores. You know, this is not just an American, this is a global phenomenon.
You're right, because every country is fighting to be blockchain friendly as well.
Right.
And the more friendly these countries are, the more jobs they get, the more opportunities they get. So you're right about globalism. It's happening, and it's happening in places where the labor is a lot cheaper than it is
Yes.
here, you know, and the tax codes are a lot cheaper. So yeah, so we want to be aware of that as well.
Yeah, I think Switzerland, it's called, what is it? Crypto Alley. That's what they call it, because they have so many blockchain companies that have been there. I mean, that are there that are set up. I mean, one of our own, interviewing platforms that we'll have in the virtual summit is Nexo. Nexo is headquartered in Switzerland.
Yeah. Yeah, there's Switzerland. There's is it Bahamas or Bermuda? One of them.
Bermuda, yes.
And then there's that Grecian island. Oh,
Malta.
I should know these. Macau or something like that.
It's Malta.
Malta. Yes, Malta. So yeah. So, well, let's continue. So these again are the issues. So trust in custody is another issue that they identify. Blockchain asset custody procedures require specificity in dictating safekeeping and transaction handling based on the unique nature of their composition. Unlike traditional assets, where the physical asset itself or a proxy of the asset is held in custody, blockchain assets cannot be physically held. By definition, blockchain assets exist on a blockchain ledger. Because the information is public and distributed, transaction reversals are not possible, as they are with traditional databases serving as a single point of reference between two known parties. This makes the practice of secure transaction handling and verification of paramount importance to proper blockchain asset custody standards. I would imagine this is important when someone dies. I'm just giving you a use case.
Sure.
You know, a use case is custody when somebody dies, and how do you verify who owned it before they died, and who gets it, and how did they get it, and division of assets. Also, again, I talked about divorce, so all sorts of issues with custody.
Sheree, can I add one thing too about that?
Sure, sure.
And I think we touched a little bit on that like last week, but it's true because you look at, for instance, especially the area that we have our site sit on is the tokenization of assets, and we look at certain properties. I saw just recently, I believe it was Securitize. There's going to be a fund launched to tokenize like $200 million in property for an apartment complex or something like that. Well, listen, and I know everyone, I'm using an absurd example, but if you're in a space, many people store, may store like their digital assets on a hardware wallet, a Nano or a Trezor or something like that. But that's not going to work in that sort of case because, let's just say something happened, like, the dog ate it. Well, I can't be like, well, wait a minute. What do you mean the dog ate the apartment building? Like, what do you mean? Like, it's not going
to work. Right, you can't have that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to work in those sort of cases. So this is the custody piece and how these assets are stored, how they're cared for, how they're protected, how they're insured. All that is a big area to have controlled, have, I guess you would say, yeah, even have regulated to protect it. And that's a great point is, what you just mentioned, a will or something like that. Yes, like, it's funny because as much as one of the primary benefits of blockchain is an immutable ledger, well, there's certain cases where, yes, you would need to, I don't know, things may need to be reversed. You may need to go back if there was an error or something like that. So,
Yeah. I mean, they're also talking about putting real estate transactions on the blockchain and things like that. So there's a lot of concerns when it comes to custody.
Yes.
And then, of course, they talk about the general regulatory environment, debt payments. There is a need for a framework that defines blockchain-related debt transactions, including the incurrence of debts, payment of debts, the use of blockchain assets as collateral,
wow,
and so on. And to ensure that said framework complies with Uniform Commercial Code, IRS code, and generally accepted accounting principles as appropriate. I had not thought about the debt payments, but they're right. And then other things, working groups were also set up to address 5 areas that were seen not as issues, but as potentially beneficial use cases in need of support: company incorporation, smart contracts, digital identity, government use of blockchain, and higher education. Where's Dr. Keisha?
Exactly.
She's not feeling well tonight, but yeah. I mean, so again, 5 additional opportunities that were here. And believe me, somebody was in all of these saying, and my company can do that for you. So.
Sheree, can I mention something just about that debt,
Sure.
the debt issue?
Sure.
That third point, the use of blockchain assets as collateral and so on. That's funny. I was listening to Zach Prince. Zach Prince is one of the founders of BlockFi, which is you can earn interest on your crypto. You can also get blockchain loans. They're another crypto lender in this space. But he was talking about how he was going to the bank some years ago, and he was looking to get a loan forgot what it was. It was for an entirely different purpose or business. And he said, and they were going through his assets, and he said, well, hey, I also have this Bitcoin. And they were like, wait a minute, you have what? And he was like, yeah, I have this Bitcoin and it's worth this amount. And they were like, no, not only are we not going to count that as at all as collateral. Now we're going to go through your finances even that much more because we believe you may have, you may be a greater risk. So that was the way the bank viewed him having, Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point, that's when he got the idea of, wait a minute, it should be the opposite way. And this is why we have, this is here we have BlockFi now. So, but it's funny, just to see that, I don't think banks now, if you were to go in to your bank, to Wells Fargo or to Bank of America, and would they ever consider your digital assets as collateral? But eventually,
they may eventually. I think one of the big issues is the price fluctuations, because with the house, for example, if my collateral is my house is only going to go up and down so much unless there's another major meltdown. And even if my house goes down in value, my house cannot be moved. I can't. So this goes back to like the double payments and things like that. I can't like sell my house to 2 different people.
Right.
That system is locked down. But how do I use my blockchain? Let's say just Bitcoin. I have Bitcoin. Let's say I have $100,000 in Bitcoin. I want to have it as collateral for a bank loan or some sort of debt. What's the process? And this goes back to custody. Do they keep the Bitcoin on a hard wallet somewhere? Right. Because if it's collateral, and I keep it, then I can just, send it someplace else. So yeah, there are a lot of these, and then when you have, for example, a house, or a car, for example, they are able to file paperwork with your county saying, let's take your car because it's easier, saying, you have a car, you have a lien on this car, right? And then when you pay off the car, you go back to the DMV and they take the lien off your title. Well, in the case of the blockchain assets, how would that work? Like, how would you show there's a lien on the 100,000 of Bitcoin? Now the more we're talking about it, I'm like, this is a fascinating conversation. It's going to be interesting to see how they deal with it, number one. And then we always talk about opportunity here, how you explain that to the average person.
Right.
How you explain that to the average person. Okay, you've got these crypto assets. Now you want to, get this loan. How do you use your crypto as collateral? There's going to be a whole education process just around that. I see the chat here is on fire. Perez is saying the NBA player securitized his contract as a digital token with blockchain assets as collateral. The company will hold your Bitcoin. Okay, so then going back to the U.S. Army thing, then they know who owns that Bitcoin.
Right.
At that point. Right. At that point, they do, because now it goes into a system.
Right.
So anyway, so they mentioned here some proposed solutions. Some things they have not taken action on. Some things they have a Colorado Digital Token Act will provide an exemption for digital tokens that meet certain requirements. So now if you care about this, you start looking these things up. They have information with regards to taxes here in the taxation issue. So this was very well laid out. We've got 5 minutes left, but this was very well laid out. And I would encourage you to look these types of things up in your state to see what is happening here.
Absolutely.
They have here for, let's see, they have here for the banking, they have a banking and blockchain roundtable. We talked about the custody, no action taken thus far. The debt payments, the company incorporation. So some things were not, they were not able to figure out. Smart contracts, the council suggested a program to train state judges to better adjudicate smart contract issues. Again, that's money right there. That's consulting. Digital identity, the council recommended a pilot set of use cases to become more familiar with the mechanisms of digital identity and identify the best ways to incorporate them into state government services, birth registries, and possible banking AML KYC requirements. So for those of you who don't know, AML is anti-money laundering and KYC is know your customers. And that's a very common term. Government use of blockchain, the council supported the pilot use of a blockchain voting platform during the 2019 Denver municipal election. And then higher education, they supported a workforce survey conducted by the Department of Higher Ed, and this will be the focus of the council's transition work. So, and then they go further in talking about what the different things are that were suggested. So we have 3 minutes left. So you all can see, even though it's 30 pages, you can kind of go to the portions that you care about, or you can read the whole thing if you want. But I thought this was great in terms of, I found this 2 weeks ago and I was so excited because, you know, I was kind of geeking out over this because I'm like, there are just so many applications that we can take just from this one report, and then figure out how it applies to your state and what the opportunities are and things like that. So yeah, so I'm glad that everyone was here to share this with us tonight. Eric, what do you think?
No, I think it's, you know, I'm gonna pull this one example and just humor me with this for a second, but I was a fan of, you know, the UFC, and if you don't know, that's the Ultimate Fighting Championship.
Okay.
And back in the 90s, it was, you know, there was very little rules, and you know, I mean, there was you could do a lot of things. There was very little rules to it. Arizona Senator John McCain at that time came out against it. He called it human cockfighting. He came out against it and he said, we're going to shut this down. And he did. And they went out and, you know, moved against it and really stopped and suppressed it. Now, what happened with that was, because they ended up stopping it and it went underground, so it's pretty much you can only watch fights on the internet and that sort of thing. It ended up going through the point where then they had to go and they said, well, wait a second. Why don't we go actually work with the athletic commissions? And they work with the Nevada Athletic Commission, which is a big state for any kind of, you know, combative sports. Mm-hmm. And they then said, okay, these are the rules, these are the procedures, these are the things that we're looking for in order for you to be licensed to take place in our state. And by them doing that and going through that process, that then allowed it to have this kind of explosive, you know, growth of where it is now, where it's on ESPN, Fox Sports, and that sort of thing, because it got the legitimacy of it. So as much as I can, you know, look at certain things and, you know, Sheree, we can cringe and go, oh man, like, oh, you know, but there's also the point of this will be another key to mass adoption. I mean,
absolutely.
It just may not feel like it, and there will definitely be growing pains. And you're absolutely right that we need to be in rooms advocating. That's really important, that people are hearing our voices and what we're seeing in the space and how we believe that it can benefit all of us. But I do see that.
And also in the community as well. So. Yes. I mean, one side of us is seeing blockchain and the other side of us is seeing Black. And in my case, I see female as well. Yes.
Good.
You know, and you see male, Eric. So, yeah. You know, yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So, Well, I want to thank you. I want to thank everyone who joined us tonight. Great conversation. If you are not a member of our inner circle where we have more conversations than this, I want to invite you to join us at blackblockchainconsultants.com and click on become a member in order to see the benefits of BBC membership. And we are looking to introduce 1 million Black people to blockchain because we want to see us win with this technology. So anything you can do to help us in your city or your state or your country, we would love to have you work with us on that. So with that, Eric and Tangi is asking if we tokenized the artwork yet. No, we're doing that at the conference, and that's going to be February 16th and 17th, 2020 in Atlanta. So you'll want to be there for that. It's going to be fun.
Yes, it's going to be
fun. I'm looking forward to that. So
I am too.
Yes. So so I want to thank everyone for being here. Hopefully next week we'll be able to see Eric's face.
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta get this fixed. I don't know why this happened. This is really weird.
Actually, next week, I take it back. Dr. Keisha is interviewing. Oh, I should have checked the person's name before I came on, but she's got a great interview lined up for next week. So you guys are going to love it, I'm sure. Okay. And thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Have a good night.
Have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.